Hey there, folks. So, last episode, we set up a very rudimentary AI that just wanders around from place to place. Now, that AI isn't exactly overly useful unless you're wanting to do some pretty basic crowd simulation work. But what I want to achieve, at least with this first AI NPC that I'm working on, is, as I mentioned before, something akin to a deer or a rabbit, like a wild animal that as soon as it sees something, it stops what it's doing and it runs away. So, what we need to do there is start working on the AI perception components. And what those are is that's the AI's ability to see things, hear things, and subsequently react to those. Now, the way that works within Unreal is you have your AI, which has a perception component. I can't remember if that's the exact name, but basically that allows the AI to say, I can see, I can hear, I can touch. There's multiple different senses you can add in. But counter to that, you need to have the objects that you want them to be able to see, to be able to hear, to have what's called a perception stimuli source. And what that is that's basically saying, okay, this object or this actor or this character can generate a sound that the AI can detect. It can be seen by the AI. So what we need to do there is actually start adding that in. Now, because I want to do this that all NPCs can see all NPCs and potentially respond to them, as well as to the player character, we're actually going to add that to our character, our TF character class. So what we want to do here, I'm going to close out of the editor. I can see I've got some stuff open from last episode still. We need to actually hop over to our TF character base. We're going to start in our header. Now we want to add something that is called a UAI perception stimuli source component. It's a pretty complex name, but we're going to set that up. We're going to go U property, edit defaults only, blueprint read only, because we don't want this being modified at runtime or anything like that. It does not need to be a save game because the base class blueprint, or base blueprint classes, I should say, are going to have that information defined. And then we need the meta, get my fingers in the right place on the keyboard, allow private access equals true. We don't need to really add a tooltip to this, but I will just for the sake of consistency. Tooltip, perception stimuli component for all characters. For the character, sorry. And this is going to be a class UAI perception stimuli source component. It's a pointer, and I'm going to call this stimuli source. Now, on its own, this isn't going to do anything. We need to register it with the perception system. We need to also unregister it with the perception system. So what we're going to do there is actually we're going to add in a private function, void, and this is just because as we go through this series, we're going to be adding more and more stimuli. So things like sight, sound. There's going to be a touch component we're going to add for some of the more smarter AI, things like that. So void setup stimuli source. So we're just going to create that definition. So this is actually something we're going to initially call in the constructor. So setup stimuli source. So what we're going to do here is stimuli source equals create default sub object UAI perception stimuli source component. It's going to throw, because we don't have a header yet, text perception. No. Trying to think of a short name. Stimuli source. We'll just call it stimuli source. Now it's going to complain if we try to do anything because we don't actually have a header for this yet. And these are actually thankfully all included in quite a nice little subfolder. Include perception and perception stimuli source component. Now, what we want to do is make sure, as long as this is created successfully, we need to actually register it with the perception system. So if stimuli source register for sense, and then you can see with that it's prompting for a T subclass of AI sense, no, UAI sense, that was my, sorry, UAI sense. Now in here it's just saying UAI sense, but it's actually got multiple different types. What we want is site to start with, and you're going to see this also throws a error because unknown data, unknown or undefined, and that's because we need to actually include that as well. So include, again, in the perception folder, AI sense, and then you can see there's actually quite a few in here. There is blueprint damage, hearing prediction, sight, team, touch. We're just going to worry about sight for this one, but we're actually, just for purposes, because I do need to go through a description, I'm going to also add in hearing as well. So we have register for sense, and I'm going to copy that down, and we're just going to duplicate that and go hearing. Now the next thing, to explain what this is covering actually, sorry. So what this is saying is this particular stimuli source or stimulus generator is able to generate sight stimuli. It is able to generate hearing stimuli. It's able to, and if you went with other ones, you're able to generate touch stimuli, things like that. So what we want to do now is go stimuli, if I could spell, stimuli source. We need to register with the perception system. And what this is doing is saying, okay, we have determined we're going to use sight. Oh, sorry, we can generate sight events. We've determined we can generate hearing events. Now we need to say, okay, now start paying attention to me. And the whole reason for this having to be in this order, and this is an important part, is what this is doing is it's pushing back, in simple terms, I don't fully understand the code yet, I've been studying it, but what it's saying is this line here is saying this stimuli source can generate sight events, this stimuli source can generate hearing events, and then we're saying, okay, perception system, which is a background system within the Unreal Engine that's used for AI. This is saying, okay, I'm done with my initial setup. Here we go. I'm an actor that can generate these stimuli. So now there is something else we need to do. We need to unregister with the perception system when the actor is removed. So what we are going to do is I'm just going to quickly grab from the Chrono Manager, because I do know I have an end play in here somewhere. Right there. Going to grab that. We're going to head back over to our TF character because we don't have that defined yet. What did I have? Was that private? Yeah, that was in the private section. So, and we're going to throw that in here right under the setup stimuli source. Now the reason for this is, as I mentioned, we need to unregister with that. Otherwise you're going to end up with let's say you have, I'm going to take a game like, say, the World War Z game, where you have just hordes of zombies. And just imagine each one of those is registered with a stimuli source. As you kill them, you're going to want to unregister them so that that stimuli source list gets smaller instead of being this huge list that isn't needed. So what we're going to do here is, again, very similar to what we did with the setup stimuli source. It's going to be if stimuli source unregister with perception system, or from perception system. And it's as simple as that. It's just basically saying, okay, you don't need to worry about me anymore. I'm done generating sight events. I'm done generating sound events, things like that. And then, just because we've ran into this before, we want to make sure we call our super end play and pass in the end play reason. And this is just so you can make sure things like garbage collection and everything like that is done correctly. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do a quick build, and we're going to hop into the editor and just make sure everything's still working and that we can at least see the stimuli component that we've added to, well, because we've added it to the TF character class, it should be present on both the NPC we created in the last couple episodes as well as the player character. So I will pause and I'll be back once we're in the editor. All right, folks, so we are back in the editor. So let's just take a quick look at the various blueprints for the the two blueprints for both the NPC and the AI. So blueprints, dev blueprint, roaming AI. So this is something you may notice, and can't remember if I've covered this in previous episodes or not, but when you open up a blueprint, sometimes you're going to find yourself brought to what I like to call the Blueprint Lite editor. And that's this very basic. It's just giving you what would be in the details panel on the right-hand side if you selected the root actor. Or you can have, sometimes you're going to get pulled into the full blueprint editor. And the reason, at least that I've found, is simply right now this blueprint does not have any custom blueprint logic. Everything is still running purely on the C++. So now if we were to add in something off the begin play, it would open up into here right away. And I think that's just Epic's way of trying to keep things simplified. So, but either way, so on here you can see we have a stimuli source. And what we did with the, sorry, let's pull this up quickly, with this register for sense, just get back into the editor here. That is what effectively this portion is for here. We don't need to actually add anything. Now, if you're doing this purely through blueprints and you went through add AI perception stimuli source, you added it this way. In here is where you would do that registration. You'd click here and go, okay, I want to say I can generate hearing events. I want to generate sight events, touch events, damage events. Some of these I'm not even sure what they're for, like prediction and team. I don't know. I've never dug into them. So, but because we're doing this through C++, we don't need this here. So I'm going to delete that. Let's compile and save to make sure there's no build errors there. Okay. And we're going to open up our third person blueprint. And in here we have that same stimuli source. So that is all set up. You can see it's coming in through from the TF character, variable name stimulus source, editable when inherited. That's from the edit defaults. Component tick. Yep. Now, this is one of the other ones that I haven't quite figured out what is going to be the most efficient. But you have the ability to change your tick group. And what that is there is every tick, which is frame within your game, so every render frame, there's actually 4 separate tick actions that happen. There is the pre-physics, during physics, post-physics, and post-update work. and they follow in that order: pre-physics, during physics, or sorry, it should be pre-physics, physics, post-physics, and after everything else. And those are when its tick logic is going to fire off. Now, this applies to a bunch of different components. So if we go to stat line here, you can see you can change your tick group there. It's entirely outside the scope of this episode, but seeing it, I wanted to talk about it. I have not figured out why. There is going to be a reason. Obviously, it's something that's provided to you. I haven't figured out what would be a good reason to change that. I assume if you have like a very physics-heavy game, you would want to either do it pre-physics or post-physics. But anyways, so that's besides the point. So as you can see here, though, our player character also has that. And again, that's because we added it to the TF character class. So the next thing we need to do is actually make it so our NPC here is able to register those events and respond accordingly. So what we need to do there, don't know why I moved that, I wanted to close that out. We do need to go back into the editor, and we need to, let's get my screen set back up how I like it. We need to now work on your AI controller. So close out of that, and I'll let this finish debugging, and there we go. And we will get started with our AI controller. Where's the header? There it is. Come on. So the work we need to do in the NPC controller is actually, well, it's pretty complex. There's quite a few parts to it. I'm probably going to end up having to split this into 2 parts just with the new sort of 30-minute episodes, but we'll see how much we can cover here. So first and foremost, in the private section, we need to add what is called, that is a class, UAI sense config site. This is a pointer, and we're going to call this site config, and this is probably going to throw an error. Is it not? Well, I know it's going to, so we're going to add that in anyways. Include, oh no, that's a class, so it won't throw an error. We do also, well actually no, we're just going to work on the site for now. So there, with this site configuration that's how you determine the AI's like field of view, the distance, things like that. So and the next thing we're going to want, very similar to how we set up the sorry, we did that in character. We set up the stimuli source. We're going to want a function that's used to purely set up the site configuration. So in here, we're going to add that in underneath. Void setup perception configuration. Now this is, I'm using the perception configuration because this is going to handle things like hearing and everything like that when we start adding that in. So I'm just going to quickly create that definition here. All right, now with that set up, there is at least one more function we're going to need to add into our header here. And this is what, and this is purely for site. So I'll clarify that. What this is it is a function that's called when a site stimulus is registered with the perception. So what we're going to do here is we are going to, no, we'll do that underneath. This one, because it's something that's accessed within backend logic of the engine, you want to make sure it's a U function. It doesn't need any attributes, but it is a void on target detected. And it takes an A actor pointer, and that is the actor, and then FAI stimulus, AI, not AT. Apparently I can't spell. FAI stimulus. I spell that right? F-A-I. F-A-I stimulus. And that's probably a header that's missing there. Okay, so this is something that you could run across with your own work. You're going to sit here and you're going to find, oh, I need this particular data type. In this case, I'm pretty sure that's a struct. What I normally do is I will go change my find all to the entire solution. You can see it was probably the last thing I did, and just hit find all. And now this is going to return a ton of stuff. First and foremost, we can get rid of this. And then we can just look through and... Okay, so this has the right. We've got... no. Yeah, so this is what we're looking for here. Okay, so AI perception types is what we need. So... And that's what I was trying to explain there. So you find a case where it's got what you need. You right click and go to definition. And then 9 times out of 10, it's going to take you to the header that has that. In this case, it's AI perception types. So include AI perception types. No. That's going to say I can't find it, right? Because it is in perception. AI perception types, I bet. And you can confirm, right click, go to, no. Okay, let's take a look in here. Okay, we'll just add it here and see just quickly. Include perception, AI perception types. Okay, so why is it not letting me do that here? Undo all of that. Oh, now it is. Okay, so that is working fine. So right click, go to, and create that definition. So with this, actually, we are getting to the 25-minute mark. This is actually going to end up having to be a 2-part episode just because this is going to take quite some time. This setup perception configuration is actually pretty detailed from what I've been able to find so far. So with that, what I'm going to do, folks, is I'm going to end this episode here, and part 2 will have the rest of this, and I'm hoping it's only a part 2. There might need to be part 3, but we'll have to see how that goes. So as always, though, thank you for watching. Any comments, questions, suggestions, concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thanks again, and I will see you in the next episode.